Hello and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Jonathan, and Misho. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday evening. Lots of news to talk about, thankfully, over the weekend. Apologies for no stream last night, just one of them things that couldn't be helped with. But we are back again today with lots of news. Now, last night there was a number of different things that have come to light. Obviously, we had the finishing of the US tour that took place after a win against United 3-0. That was a great win. We then also had news that Liverpool were in for Julio Soler, a left back from the Argentinian League, and then also the Georgian keeper. Now, please forgive my mispronunciations. Mamardashvili. There you go. That's probably the best way that I could probably get it. For a fee of about £25 million. Now, the fee with Lanus, which is the Argentinian team that Soler plays for, is about £11 million. Thereabouts. $15 million is what it was quoted at. After you do the conversion, it's about £11 million. So looking at that, it seems to be that we are targeting certain players and we're getting into it. So first thing that we'll sort of have a look at is we'll have a look at the left back and what that sort of means for the other left backs that'll be at the club, like Kostas Tsimikas, maybe Andy Robertson. Is he being phased out? Are we looking to phase out Kostas Tsimikas? Is Gomez going to be simply a centre back now? What's the situation that's going to be going ahead? So, Jonathan, I'll throw it over to yourself first in relation to that. There's been compilations of this guy thrown around all over the place. He seems to fit quite well. Similarly, we done our own little stats comparison between him and between Soler and both Kostas and Robertson. He seemed to match up well with them. So what do you think of him as a player? Is this, like, considering the last guy that we bought, last fullback that we bought for the left-hand side, that was about £9 million, worked out pretty well for us as well?
Yeah, I think it's really funny because on the stream on Wednesday, was it last week, I said I think maybe one of the left back could struggle to keep up with the Arne system, but he looks exciting. It's not expensive for a player from South America.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth to maybe give them the money and let him stay there for another season. I don't think he will break into the squad this season, but next season he might be in the rotation and have something to do for us.
Yeah. If it is him that comes in, I think he might be a bit of a prospect, and I think it might be the likes of maybe Owen Beck that may leave. It might be Kostas that might leave. David Lynch was on a stream earlier with Anfield Index, I believe it was, saying that anything could happen with Kostas. He could stay, he could go. It all necessarily depends. Currently, there's no reported suitors for him, but realistically, it's one of them that, if anything has been shown this summer transfer window, Misha, nobody really has a clue what Liverpool is at. Bids that have come in left and right have essentially not been reported for weeks, if days at the most, and nobody else seems to have a clue what we're at. But left back and this goalkeeper that we're looking at as well, from the Georgian goalkeeper that seemed to have taken everybody's eye at the Euros. What do you make of them two signings? Do you think this maybe might be the writing on the wall for the likes of Tsimikas, Robertson, Kelleher? Where do you think these players' heads might be at with these new signings possibly coming in?
I think if we get in Mamardashvili, or however you pronounce it, I think Kelleher is going to leave, especially if he's set to be loaned out to another Premier League club because they want him as an replacement, and I think Yaros will take that second goalie slot. And Owen Beck, they want to sell him if he's leaving the club this season. They have said they want him gone permanent. So I think that's a more realistic transfer than maybe selling Kostas if we bring in Julio. And a new goalie wasn't the thing I had on the top of the list this summer. But if we bring him in, I'm more than happy.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Misho, your thoughts on those two players as well, and maybe the thoughts on the players that are currently in the squad. As I mentioned, you have Owen Beck, you've Kostas Tsimikas, Andy Robertson, Quiveen Kelleher, you have Jaros as well, who's another backup keeper that looked very well in the second half against United. I know it's only pre-season, but you can only play the games that are in front of you. He looked very well. What do you make of these two immediate links that sort of happened to us over the last 48 hours? Would you be happy with these signings, or do you feel like our money should be spent elsewhere?
I honestly don't know what to think, because the comments from the last 2 days or from yesterday from Slot is that we're trying hard to improve on the current squad, and that's very hard. There's a very small short list of players that we're looking at. And then in the same sentence, we hear news about 2 backup players. Those are not squad players, those are backup players. On the left back, let's not forget we have Ramsey, who's been, he has 4 years already at Liverpool, but he's been loaned out, he was injured. So that's another left back. I don't know why he was bought. I guess he had better potential before. Now we're looking at another left back. With him in particular, with Soler, he seems exciting. Like, I don't think anyone has heard of him before yesterday or before this morning. Anyone who says that, just shut up.
Yeah.
But while these news were coming, I saw a couple of tweets which are from last year, when someone tweeted, "This guy's really exciting and he hopes that Mascherano takes him at the Olympics," and that was last year. So someone already saw the potential in him, and he was at the Olympics. I didn't watch Argentina at the Olympics. I'm guessing he played decent, and that's what caught Liverpool's attention with him. He's still young, not gonna break the bank. Sure, have him, but we still have a lot of people at left back. Even if someone leaves, like, again, Robertson might not be the most reliable. Tsimikas was never number one. If one of them leaves or Tsimikas leaves, then you have like the young kids. So I really don't know. Again, he's most likely to go back to loan. Regarding the goalkeeper, again, we're looking for people to strengthen the squad, and then we're buying a fourth choice keeper, or just like a backup keeper who might end up being second or first, but not this year even. I don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. Someone knows. If they're looking at a goalkeeper, that means something's happening with the keepers. Are they thinking that Kelleher is gonna leave this summer and the winter? Obviously, I don't think he's gonna get starting goalkeeper before Alisson, even though it's possible. Alisson hasn't shown anything in his form to show that he's slowing down or he's making mistakes. That hasn't happened. So I don't see Kelleher becoming first choice, and that's what he's been crying for. Hopefully he gets it, and I don't think they want to let him for free after 2026. So yeah. It's interesting with these comments that we're trying to improve the squad and we're looking at backup players. I really don't know what to think.
Yeah, see, I think we're giving the media the runaround, to be perfectly honest, because nobody has a clue what we've been at, and it's very telling of how the big guys, the likes of your Fabrizio Romanos and David Ornsteins and James Pearce's, hadn't any clue about bids that were sent in and rejected. Like, we were an hour away from having Anthony Gordon and selling Joe Gomez, and nobody knew about it for a month. So I genuinely think that they're being given the runabout. Haley were mentioning here about Julian Alvarez to Atletico Madrid for £70 million. I think it's 70 million with an additional 10 million in add-ons. That is the most overpriced I've ever seen a transfer in my life, bearing in mind that I think City only paid 14 million for him, and they're not even going to miss him. That's absolutely really good as well. Bonkers. He's a really good player, but City aren't going to miss him, and they've just gone and signed another winger for 20 million. Like, and now they're going to, like, how does his valuation immediately go from 14 million, does nothing, scores a couple of goals in the Premier League, and now he's 80 million pounds overall? Like, that alone, like 100 million euro overall deal for him is absolutely madness. I don't know how that could be it. Bob Horse Allison doesn't have a year left. He's 2 years left. His deal is up in 2026, not in 2025. So he has another 2 years on it. You never walk alone saying that they need the money for the lawyers. They definitely do, considering what's going to happen to them in November. Just going up through the comments here and just having a quick look. We have Nicholas Fulkrug going to West Ham for your £27 million. That's a guy that's going straight into my Fantasy Premier League. And then just having a quick look out here. Just from everything else. Yeah, Jim Hughes, we'll get to the Carvalho stuff. We're going to get on to the topics of the winners and the losers in the preseason US tour and who we think should stay, who we think should go, who looks like they're doing well. And we have Tossin joining us just now. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to update everything here so we can get him in. And there we go. So we've Tossin now joining us as well. Yeah, I agree. He's overrated. Alvarez is very much overrated. I don't see how. Well, he's not overrated. He's properly rated. I don't think anybody thinks that he's a world beater. Yeah, he's fine. Like, he's a great player, but he's not £80 million worth of a player. Jesus Christ, that's stupid. But we are now going to move on to the next topic of the. Actually, we won't, because I'm going to get Tossin to weigh in on this. Tossin, what we were just discussing between myself, Jonathan, and Misho was the two guys that we've been most strongly linked with in the last 2 days, Julio Soler and the Georgian goalkeeper. Oh, God, let me try and pronounce his name again. Mamardashvili is the way that I think it's pronounced. But look, say that 10 times without getting your tongue twisted. But realistically, it's give us your thoughts on them, possibly them coming in and how it might affect Kelleher, Jaros, Andy Robertson, Costa Simicas, Owen Beck, considering we might be looking at selling him as well. It kind of sends a little bit of ripples throughout the team, but give us your thoughts on the two of them guys coming in and how it might affect the team as it is at the moment.
Well, first and foremost, sorry guys, I miscalculated the time. I thought we'd be done with the women's 200 meters by the time I came on the stream, and I calculated 8:30, and then I just checked the time and I was like, oh my God, we've started already. And then I saw your message on WhatsApp. I'm still going to have to go and do the women's 200 meters as well. So please, guys, I'm sorry, guys, please. But in all sincerity, I think with Mamardashvili, the first question I asked is, you don't want to send the wrong message to Ali. That's very important. You don't want to send the wrong message to him to feel that maybe we're trying to replace him in the near future. Whether we like it or not, he's still the best goalkeeper in the world. And as much as I love the idea of having a top quality replacement for him down already, I think you also have to be a bit sensitive. What does it mean for someone like we know Kelleher Quivi has always said that he doesn't see himself in the team long term because he wants to play first. He wants to be first choice and play more minutes. So you obviously know that with this kind of signing, if you are Quivi, you are beginning to say, maybe it's time for me to move on. If you are Jaros, you're beginning to say, maybe it's time for me to move on, because it looks like the club have gone and signed a 23-year-old guy who went to the Euros and wowed everybody. There's nobody who saw the Euros and said, that guy's not a good goalkeeper. Everybody saw him as a fantastic goalkeeper. So I think if I'm those guys, it becomes a situation where you're starting to think about whether you're going to stay at the football club. But it's good, but I'll be honest with you, it looks good on paper, but by the time it comes to the dressing room camaraderie and then you begin to analyze it data-wise, you obviously begin to have your concerns as well. For Juan Soler, I tried to do a bit of, the moment I saw the links, I tried to do a bit of digging on the profile of the guy. And I don't know, a lot of people in the chat might not like this. As much as I love Costa Simicas, I think the time has come for us to maybe, I know he just signed a contract as well last season. I sort of think maybe it might be time to move on from him. I think he sort of hit his ceiling and he can't play better than he is playing right now. So being linked with a player of that caliber who has the potential to be a top class left back in the future is something that I really like, and it warms my heart. But also what it means is the message it sends to someone like Owen Beck, who's thinking, I want to be the left back. He's seen Conor Bradley He's seen Jarrell Kwanzaa get into the first team. So he's beginning to think, okay, if I play very well, if I, raise my game a level, it could be me next. So he maybe dampens his morale a little bit, but the club has somewhat got to do what makes sense statistically, what the data says, and what we think will help the team in the long run.
Yeah, it's the best for the team, realistically. And we have Electric Dream saying here that Kelleher is as good as Alisson. I don't know about that yet, but I would say that he's better with the ball at his feet than Alisson. Kelleher is essentially a ball-playing centre-back who can save the ball, is my opinion on him. That's the way that I look at him. And that's just it. Maybe it's Irish bias. I don't know. Just looking at a couple of the comments here in relation to this of Bob Horse going on about Alisson again, that he's over the age of 28 and he's less than 3 years on his contract, so you can buy out his contract and move on. That is what will happen. Liverpool have never done that before, nor will they ever do it. If we were to buy out contracts, do you really think Thiago would have been here as long as he was, considering he was injured for 50% of the time?
Even though
Liverpool,
have been there so long.
Yeah, Liverpool don't do that. And Alisson has said that the money is on offer in Saudi that it will secure his family for life. This is very true. The money that is on in Saudi currently at the moment is nuts, but I think the Saudi league is very much going the same way as the Chinese league and all of that stuff that was there years ago, that it's already fallen on its face. Players are leaving. Players want to leave. They don't want to go there. They're not able to go to the lifestyle. The way that I see Alisson going is possibly similarly to Thiago Silva, where he'll just run out his deal and he'll just go home. He might just go back to Brazil and play out his years there in a comfortable life, living wherever in Brazil. That's the kind of way that it is. Saudi won't buy out a contract either. They've never done that either. So I don't know why you're thinking that they'll do that. They've never done that. But it's one of them things that as Jamie is mentioning here, it doesn't see Alisson going to Saudi for personal reasons. We had this discussion in the chat earlier on today that we think that Alisson is probably the type of player or type of person that will just go home, similarly to Thiago Silva. He'll just go back to Brazil, essentially. But that's essentially it. So the player buys out. He's not going to buy out his contract when he can sit in Liverpool. It's not. You're saying stuff that's not going to happen. He's not going to buy out his contract when he can sit on his contract till he leaves for free, earn his money regardless, and then just go. Why would he pay money to leave early when he can earn money to sit in his arse and do nothing? It just makes no sense. But that region is about to get more. Yeah, it's not about reading the rules. He's not going to do it. It doesn't matter about the rules. He's not going to buy out his contract. It's as simple as that. But looking at everything that's going on at the moment, we're going to have a quick look now at the next topic. Before we do that, we just want to make sure, we're just going to ask everybody to make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out on any content that we have. And if you're currently watching over on Twitter as it is at the moment, or X as it's known now, make sure to jump over to our YouTube page through the link in the bio and make sure to subscribe and help us build the channel as well. Very much appreciated, guys. Thank you so much. So looking at what's just finished, money isn't the problem. I'm not even going to keep entertaining that conversation because you're clearly clueless. Money isn't the issue on that side of things. He won't go there because it's a personal thing. Some people just won't go there. You see, it was clearly a money thing for Jordan Henderson to give up all of his morals and beliefs, and he came back with his tail between his legs and he gave up all of his money to come back. And now he's sitting on the bench for Ajax. It's like, but Arne Slot says to hit the likes and subscribe and share and pass on the video to death. Thanks very much for that, Jamies. But we are going to move on now to the preseason tour that just finished in the US, where Liverpool played Real Betis, we played Arsenal, and we played Manchester United, and came away with 3 wins, 6 goals scored, 1 goal conceded, and quite a promising look on the team, if I'm perfectly honest. Just from watching the first game, watching the second game, and watching the third game, it killed me, considering it was on at 12:30 a.m. Irish time. I don't know how you international fans do it. week in, week out, because that killed me. Anybody that's an international fan watching at all hours of the morning, my props go out to you. Very, very simple. But looking at the US tour, Jonathan, essentially what we need to look at is Arne Slot made a lot of comments on it, and I'm going to pull up a couple of them here now, and I'm just going to read out a couple of them because there was a fair few of them. So bear with me 2 seconds now. We'll get them all up here because he made a lot of comments in an Athletic article that I want to have a quick look at, because some of them are very telling and some of them are very not telling. So we'll have a quick look at them here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's fine. So do I have 5 or do I have 4? No, I have more than 5. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I do. You have 5. Perfect. So what I'll do is, Jonathan, I'll throw you the first one and you can give me your thoughts on it. Or I'll read, no, I'll read them all out so everybody can have a look at them, and then we'll kind of go through them that way. So when he was discussing Trent, he said that he didn't speak about his commitment, that he only spoke about the way that he wanted him to play and the way that he could fit into the team. He was mainly focused on the Euros at the time when they spoke, and that he saw some clips of people showing him recently that he looks really fit and sharp, and that Slot can't wait to see him train. Then when he was discussing the positions and everything like that the team is currently doubled up in every position, which is completely normal. And then you look at other Premier League clubs, and he laughed when he said this, because I can tell you he's pointing at Chelsea when he says this. You see more than double the players in every position. What he means by double the players is you have a starter and you have a backup. That's essentially what he means. For me, we have a normal amount of players, he said, especially if you play all of these cup games, and we've played more Champions League games again this season as well. So he thinks that the squad depth is fairly good as it is at the moment. When thinking about other players, Slot then said, I think other clubs have more players than us, but it depends on who you are counting. If you're counting all the youngsters on tour, then there are many, but a few of them will go back to the under-21s or the under-18s. So I don't think we will have too many. This will be the likes of Trainioni. This will be the likes of possibly some of the younger. Nalo is another one. Blair is another one that'll end up going back to the underage team. So you can expect that. And then lastly, then, if asked if a holding midfielder, if he was adding a holding midfielder to the squad, he said, I think Ryan Gravenberch did really well in that position, and we have other options as well. Following on from that, he mentioned that the bar is really high for new signings because we also have very good players in the team, and it's not easy to find a player to meet those standards, and then is he available? Then we also have to find an agreement with them, so it's not always easy to find a player who can help us. And he's not wrong when he says that. It is very true. But Jonathan, with those comments that have just been made there in relation to both Ryan Gravenberch and the DM, then you have the role he thinks Trent might play, the squad that depth seems to be okay, and then he also mentioned that it's hard to find somebody that will move the needle for a relatively equal price. So, Jonathan, what do you think will of those comments? Ryan Gravenberch and the DM, Trent and his role, the current squad depth, and how hard it will be to find a player that will tilt the needle enough for us?
I think Ryan in the 6 role can be exciting. He delivered against United. And I said it last time I was on, he could fit the number 6 role. And Arne is agreeing. And with the squad depth, yes, I think Trey even could make some matchday squads. He's been really good when he has come in. The signing comment, I'm getting worried because we need more, maybe not starters, but we need more. It's obvious that Endo is struggling. You saw it against United, you saw it against Arsenal, you saw it against Betis. He is struggling. So we need a signing who, Arne signing, who can integrate with the team he already has. A player he think will suit his system. And where Trent, I think Trent's gonna play at right back. I don't see Conor Bradley benching him, to be honest. I can't really see it. Not in the first 3-4 games.
No, that's fair. See, I think you could actually end up seeing Trent in that midfield that drops into a double pivot with a 10 in front of him For some reason, I have a sneaking suspicion that might be what happens. So you have a lineup of Allison in goal, Bradley as your right back, Kwanzaa and Virgil as your two centre backs, and we then have Simicast at the left back because I don't think Robertson to be fit yet. He's currently undergoing rehab for the injury he picked up in pre-season. Then another reason why we might end up needing to move on from him. And then you'll have a midfield three of McAllister, Elliott, and Trent. Trent and McAllister will then drop, and Elliott will then push forward into the 10. And then you'll have a left wing of Cody Gakpo. If he's available, it might be Carvalho based on everything that's going on. And then you'll have Salah on the right wing, and it'll be either Jota or Nunes up front, depending on who's ready to be integrated properly into the team. It's Ipswich. We should be able to beat Ipswich without a Nunes up front, a Diaz on the left, a Trent at right back, so to speak. We should be able to beat them. But it is the question, really. Misho, his comments by slot. We will have, like he was saying, that the squad depth is good the way it is. Like we have at least two in every position, maybe three if you consider some youth prospects. He was saying about Trent's role. Do you think it'll be a right back or a midfielder? And then he also mentioned about trying to find somebody to bring in to then tilt the needle enough. How difficult do you think that is to find that type of a person? Misho,
so regarding the positions, regarding the positions, I think it's true. There was a post on Twitter where they had top 5 or top 6 clubs in England, and everybody had around 30 to 28 players. I think Liverpool was second with 31, then it was United with 30, City with 30, Arsenal with 28 or 26. Only Chelsea had 41. So it's a level field. We're playing the same game. Maybe Chelsea, of course, are going to have more. We also want to have better players for a second. But if you have 2 options for every position, that's always good. When it comes to Trent's position, I think just because it was even mentioned, that makes me think that he's gonna play more in midfield. If he didn't even mention his position, Trent plays at right back. He's been playing at right back for 5-6 years more, but just 5-6 years as a starter. If he even mentions Trent's position, that means he's already thinking he has decided to play him in midfield. I don't know exactly how they're gonna line up because I still rate Szoboszlai to go forward. Harvey is really dangerous. Like he could see a pass. We saw it against United. Great passing, but I think when it comes to goal scoring or maybe just maturity, Szoboszlai might be just better when it comes to being dangerous up front. But we'll see. Now he has all of his midfield. I think that's great that all of the midfielders came back a little bit earlier than the rest. So now he has the weekend something to decide before, less than a week now before the last preseason game, but also enough time to decide before Ipswich how they want to line up. But I also think Bradley starts. Now that Bradley has a full preseason, I think he's going to be more confident. Just this confidence that it gives you to be starting for Liverpool is going to improve his game. Not about ability or how much time you have under your belt, like how many games you're playing. Just knowing that you start and that you've played a full preseason under your coach, under a new coach, I think that gives you the confidence boost that you need, because we know how much mental strength and just the ego can play a role in how you're playing. We've seen great players crumble under pressure, not being visible in big games or something like that. That's all ego, that's not skills. So I think that's going to help Bradley, and I can see him starting as a right back this season.
Yeah. See, I'm torn. See, I could think he could be deployed in both. It could be one or the other, that kind of a way. But it's an interesting one to see because, as you said, he didn't mention his position. He's just like, I want the role I want him to play is the words that he used. And I think I think Slot is the kind of guy that he's very careful about the words that he uses, and he's very purposeful about the word that he uses. but it's one of the. I think Bradley could be a starter. I think Trent could. I think they can both play in the same team, and you could move Trent up to that double pivot role and have Bradley as the right back in sort of a 4-2-3-1 type formation. That's just the way that I look at it, because that's the way we've kind of been setting up. It's been a back four, and then the two of the midfield three drop, and you leave one guy up ahead to facilitate the front three, which is what it seems to be. We've Tossin back there now. I'm going to get him in again. And there we go. Tossin, what we were doing is we were just discussing Slot's comments on the player depth, where he said that he thinks that it's basically the way he described it was, he said that we have two players at each position in depth. So we have a starter and we have a bench player. He then joked about other teams having more. I'm imagining he means Chelsea, and that they have way more at their own positions. And the way that I look at it is that he's saying that we're good at depth in every position, and he's saying that if you count some of the younger guys, we have a lot that'll be going back to the under 21s and the under 18s. He then went on to say about Trent's role. He didn't say position, he said role, which has both myself and Misho just discussing, is he going to be in midfield? Is he going to be right back? What way is he going to play? What role is he going to play? Where is he going to set up? Because I think he could play in the midfield alongside Conor Bradley at a right back holding the width, because the way Slot is kind of setting up is a 4-2-1-3, so to speak, and that there's a 10 and two holding midfielders a little bit deeper. They're like between a 6 and an 8 is the way that I'm looking at it. And then he also went on to say, what was the other thing that he said? That it is very hard to find players that are going to tilt the needle enough for us that are in the market at the moment for the price that they're being touted for. Just give me a couple of your thoughts on his comments. He was all about the squad depth. How do you think it is? Trent's role? Do you think it'll be right back? Do you think it'll be midfielder? How will he be deployed? And finding that next X factor that we need to have on the team. Like, how hard is it to improve a team that was essentially 3 games off winning a Premier League season last season?
Yeah, I was listening a bit to Misho's contributions, and I wanted to say that it looked like he saw my mind and was saying some of the things I wanted to say. I will just add to that, and I don't mean this as to try to offend anybody, but anybody who saw England at the Euros and thought Trent Alexander-Arnold was the problem, the person needs to go back to watch football again for beginners. Football for beginners. That's what the person needs. Because I've been saying this for maybe 2 or 3 years now, that I thought Trent should be in midfield. He should be part of a double six. Now, I think the concern is you now have to look for a double six that fits, because there is no player we have currently in our squad that matches his profile playing in the double six. And people need to maybe sort of understand where I'm coming from. If we play with Trent and McAllister in the double six at the base, we will be inviting too much pressure in terms of when we don't have the ball. And in terms of our organization, it means there's a lot of emphasis on Darwin and whoever it is that starts alongside Salah and Diaz or Hakbo on the left. There is going to be a lot of pressure on them to quickly win the ball as quickly as possible, because our midfield is going to be a bit brittle. If we're going by what we're seeing in preseason or what I've seen from the games that I've seen so far, I think he might not be saying it, but Slot is really fascinated by playing Harvey Elliott in the 10, and it looks like something that he's going to do a lot this season. We might say it's preseason games, but I think he's really beginning to, it's an idea that is really beginning to form in his mind. I don't think he wants to let Carvalho go, because I think he will play Carvalho in the 10 at some point as well. And we are not all, well, there's one thing I like for us as Liverpool fans. We don't delude ourselves. We are very realistic. And I don't know, maybe it's a Liverpool thing. We like to think of the worst possible scenario, regardless of, especially when it comes to transfers, especially if we're not going to sign anybody. I'm not going to say that we're not going to sign anybody because I know we're going to sign. But the reality is this team is very difficult to improve. I had a conversation with my friend some days ago, and we were talking about realistic upgrades. players that if you bring them into this Liverpool team now, they start. You can't count 5 players. And I'm saying across all the squads in the Prem, you can count 5 guys that come into our team now and upgrade the team. So I understand where the transfer department is coming from in terms of exercising a bit of caution in the kind of talent that they want to bring in. I've looked at midfielders that match the profile of Endo. The only player that I think, if the club is interested in, and I don't think the data guys have flagged them yet, is Martin Zubimendi. For whatever reason, they don't like him. These things are also a bit bureaucratic, because if the scout comes and says, okay, you know what, this player is a very good player, I think he's going to fit in our system, he's worked very well, there are a lot of bureaucracies that have to be overcome before the transfer is approved. I've been fortunate to be maybe in those situations once or twice before, where we scouted players and we go to the head of scouting and he says, I like this player, and he takes it to the DOF or he takes it to the technical director and he says, yeah, we know he's a good player, but we don't see how he fits into the team now. So it's a consortium of teams, even with data, even if the data says that the player is a very good player. So it has to be someone really exceptional. I've tried to look at the Bundesliga and look for 6s that I thought played very well last season. If Arne Slot could not sanction Mats Pfeiffer's move from Feyenoord and say, I'm bringing him with me, then obviously I think he lets everybody know that we are not, they are thinking of possible and alternate solutions as well. The position I think we need to fill in as a matter of urgent need is at centre-back. And that's because with Virgil, Jarrell and Ibu and Joe, because we know Joe is like the guy that can play anywhere. We need another left-sided centre-back that can play with confidence and maybe will allow Slot in his flexibility to switch to a back 3. Because to an extent, if we're honest, we have 2 players in most of the positions, not all of the positions.
Yeah, it's not wrong. Like it's very hard to tilt the needle when you have a squad that was essentially 9 points off winning the Premier League last season. You need it's fine details and fine tuning at that point as to how you then upgrade and go about it that way. And I just want to go through a couple of comments that are here that have come on to it. We want Adam Morton, not for the price of 100 million. I'm afraid not. He has a grand total of 1,300 minutes in the Premier League, and that does not make a £100 million player. I hate to tell it to you. Then I have Electric Dreams saying here, why are we not going after Conor Gallagher? Probably because he's shit. Will Chelsea not sell to LFC? I mean, they don't particularly like us because we made them pay 170 million quid for 2 CDMs that are shit with them in Lavia and Caicedo. Then when it comes, just having a quick look here with Emin Venom, Cody will play up front like Carvalho, not on the left wing. So he played on the left wing for the entirety of the Euros and was the top goal scorer, or one of, and he just will go back to playing as a striker. That's not his natural position, and he doesn't like, he's 175 goals as a left winger in his career with PSV and with us and with country. Like, he's nuts from the left wing. He needs to play left wing, in my opinion. Diaz, I don't think will be here. Carvalho will probably be more deployed in a central role in the 10 position, or he may end up being an odd man out and might end up getting the chop and going. Robert asking, do you think he'll try Trent in the 6th role against Sevilla? I thought that said Sabo for a second, and I was a bit worried. But it's Sevilla. But realistically, I think he will. But it'll be like in a deeper 8 role, similar to where McAllister would have played with Brighton, similarly to that. Emin there mentioning about 4-2-4 when attacking. He already said that he's not going to play that again because that was purely experimental, because we didn't have a 9 at the time. That was literally the only reason. Paul then asking in relation to Diaz, if he goes to Barca. Barca can't even register their own players and manager at the moment. They're that low on funds. And I don't think they'll end up getting Diaz. I don't think Diaz is going to go anywhere, to be perfectly honest with you. That's just my thoughts on it at the moment, unfortunately. He may end up doing very well in this system. He may not, but it might be a time at Christmas that he might end up going. Maybe not that. But Just having a quick look. Jonathan is making me hungry. What?
Sorry.
But yeah, it's very interesting to see everybody's thoughts on everything that's going on here. So let me have a quick look. Man United. Would you look at that? So remember how we said Man United are broken, they stink of piss? Well, Man United are now going to move away, according to David Ornstein. They're not going to go anywhere near Manuel Ugarte, and they'll start exploring other options. They don't intend to make the €60 million fee and will only revisit PSG if the price drops. No progress yet. Talks cooled and exploring options for other targets. It's almost like I'm right every time. They don't have money. They're broke. They can't spend until they sell. But it's just one of them. It's funny. So let me have a look here. Gay.
Yeah. I think he's now.
I'm torn. I don't know if I really want him myself. One interesting thing, though, and here's an interesting one that I don't think anybody has discussed. Bruno Guimaraes' interest has cooled all over. Newcastle are about to sign Mark Gahey for £70 million. It doesn't say 70 million exactly, but the reports that came out said it's going to be well in excess of £60 million. That means it's probably going to be between 70 and 80 million pounds. Newcastle now need to sell. So here's a question that I'll pose to everybody in the chat. Jonathan, I'll start with yourself. If you had the choice, are you taking Bruno Guimaraes or are you taking Anthony Gordon from Newcastle? You need to sell.
My heart says Gordon, but logic says Guimaraes.
Yeah, that's why I thought it'd be a great question. It's one of them, like, because all interest on him is cool. His release clause is no longer there. You can very easily do a deal. I
would love Bruno, but then they have to lower the price of what they're asking.
But yeah, but if you turn around and say I'll give the hypothetical. They buy Gahey for 70 million. You turn around and say we'll give you 70 million for Bruno right now, so that negates the whole deal. Would you then? And if they say yeah, so who would you rather? Gordon for 70 or Bruno for 70? Bruno? Yeah, I'd be the same. That's the way that I'm thinking about it as well. Misho, same question to yourself. Considering that Newcastle will probably now need to sell. Now this is purely hypothetical because they could end up needing. They might not need to sell if they get European competition next finishing European places next year. They may not need to sell whatsoever. But yeah, I like how everybody's like it's like I'm playing on heartstrings here, and I love it. But Misho, the same question to you. They buy Gahey for £70 million. Let's just say. Would you then? Who would you take? If you went to Newcastle and offered, we'll give you 70 million for Gordon or Bruno Guimaraes. Tell us who you want to lose. Who would you try and get more? Would you try and favor towards Gordon or would you try and favor towards Bruno?
If we're given the choice, I'd rather get Bruno, of course, every day. I'm not even like that big of a fan of Gordon. Like, I like him. He's a threat up front, but like we also have a lot of people on the left. So I don't think, again, we're looking for someone that moves the needle. Is he going to be the one that wins us the season? Like the wins us a title? Between them two, the likeliness that Bruno can make it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he gets a lot of yellow cards. So that's a bit worrying. But of course, I mean,
that's what happens in a CDM role, though. That's just one of the things that happens.
So does Gordon when he dives forward. So, yeah.
So there you go. Tosin, I'm going to ask you the same question. You see Newcastle spending £70 million. You then approach and say, we want Bruno Guimaraes 70 million, or we want Anthony Gordon 70 million, and that then negates their purchase completely and brings them back to net zero again. What who are you going for?
I retweet everything that Misho has said. Retweet. Absolutely correct. I agree with him. I'd go Bruno because if in an ideal world, if we had a bottomless pit of cash, go for Bruno Guimaraes. He solves all the problems in the midfield, long term, short term. I think if he comes to Liverpool, we win the Premier League next season. Easy. I'm not even trying to. I'm at the canter. We'll win it at the canter.
Yeah, I think that's something that not an awful lot of people have thought of, and if that comes to fruition, I'm saying I call it first, because that would be a hilariously interesting one if we turn around and went back and said, no, we don't want Gordon anymore, we want Bruno, and we'll give you 70 million for him right now. I think that would immediately, as you said, Tossin, make us favourites for the Premier League, and I think, or at least one of very much up there as a title contender. I think it could be done that way.
And is Sandro Tonali back from the
That's
suspension?
what I mean. Sandro Tonali should be back. He just got a 12-month ban, so Tonali
If
should be back
remember-
this season.
If people remember how dangerous they looked with Tonali and Guimaraes, they were controlling the midfield. Like they were like a threat. I was genuinely scared of Newcastle when they both were playing. And it's like some kind of miracle happened, not miracle, but stupidity from Tonali and clever play from Milan that this transfer happened. But imagine Maka and McAllister and Guimaraes
Don't make me dream.
having the same chemistry. It's gonna be game over like pretty quick.
Yeah, because it's hilariously, Bruno seems to fit the mold that we want more so than a bruiser of a CDM. It's kind of that thing. And Bob Horace, City's not moving for anybody because nobody wants to go to City because there's 115 charges hanging over their head at the moment. And Pep said that he's not going buying anybody else this summer. They've bought £20 million winger from their own team that they own. I think it's either the Girona or Troy.
Paqueta, but that went away when Paqueta got charged.
Yeah, they wanted Paqueta, that and all of a sudden, until he started betting on yellow cards for himself in the game. And now that's another interesting one as well, that West Ham have now, I seen somebody else commented earlier that West Ham has spent £111 million so far this summer. They could be looking for funds, and they've bought a lot of forwards. Mohamed Kudus could be on the move, and that's one that could be looked at too, considering they need funds, especially considering they're not going to get anything out of Paqueta. So that's another really, really interesting one.
If they sell Alvarez, I think they might try to bring in someone, but it's not going to be like 4 or 5 new players.
Yeah. Like the fact that they're getting £80 million for Julian Alvarez is fucking bonkers. I don't know how they're able to pull that off. It's madness, that. And I don't know why Atletico are...
If they didn't have Erling up front, he would have started every game.
Oh, he would have, 100%, which is nuts. Like, and to be honest with you, I think Alvarez is a better footballer than Erling Haaland is. Not a better goal scorer, before anybody comes at me. He's a better footballer all around. Similarly to, I think that Darwin Núñez is a better footballer than Erling Haaland. Just Erling Haaland just taps them in from 6 yards every time. But watch Darwin Núñez this season. I'm 100% convinced of it. But guys, we are essentially going to leave it there. I don't have anything else that we need to run through. So before we go, just make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We very much appreciate it. Make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos. And then looking at it then as well, make sure if you're watching us on X or Twitter as it used to be known, make sure to jump over to the YouTube page. Link is in our bio, and we will then love you to subscribe and help us build this channel. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this Monday evening stream. We'll be back again tomorrow from 7:30 again, and we'll have our Stars, Stripes and Anfield night stream from 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 2 a.m. British time. So make sure you're around for that too. Thank you so much, guys. And for myself, Jonathan, Tossin and Misho, thank you so much, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.